Welcome everybody to our Conscious Cafe Global presentation today with Nick Haines. We are at the beginning of the year and about to look at the year of the water rabbit. We had a wonderful presentation last year with Nick, the year of the water tiger. And we know that we're going to be getting some fantastic information about what's going to be happening. And we'll also have some time to discuss that as well. So Nick has done this a few times, and he's a real specialist in this body of knowledge about how the cycles change, particularly at the Chinese New Year. So we love having Nick at our presentation. Welcome, Nick. And I'm now going to introduce him. Nick is the creator of something called the Vitality Test, which some of you may be familiar with. He's an international speaker, author, strategist, and a teacher in Chinese energetics, something you may or may not be familiar in, but it's a fantastic philosophy and body of knowledge that really assists us in understanding ourselves and the world. He's also the co-founder of a movement called No More Boxes. And through his work at the Five Institute, which is the holder of the Vitality Test, he is engaged in a diverse range of companies, individuals, corporations, leadership, large organizations, governments, NHS that he's worked with. And his particular expertise is around issues of relationship, culture, communication, empowerment, diversity. And we talked earlier on about kindness. He's a kindness ambassador, self-appointed kindness ambassador in the UK. And he does a lot of events and courses, and what he delivers is based on 40 years of working with this knowledge and 50,000 one-on-one consultations, which is, it's a big thing to reflect back on, Nick. So welcome. We'll give you a nice warm Conscious Cafe welcome, and I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm here at your service when you need me.
Oh, thank you, Gina, for that lovely introduction. So I'm thrilled to be here talking about the year of the water rabbit. I'm going to run through some slides for you. You will have, I had uploaded all the slides, so they're there for you. So I would just kind of listen, absorb. We're going to have some breakout rooms. So I really hope you enjoy this content. We're going to whiz through some of it, and some of it will be slower and more reflective. So it will all be there for you. Okay, so share my screen. There we go. That goes to there, that goes to there. I'm going to hide that. There we are. So welcome to the exploration of the water rabbit year 2023, and as I've worked out especially for Conscious Cafe. I've done some of this content before, but I put some little extra bits, and I was saying to Gina and Judy, this is one of my absolute favorite ones to do. So as I say, you have the slides there for you. We're going to be giving an overview of the year plus some extra things. I have a very big masterclass, which is over 3 hours, which goes into the how-tos. This is very much looking at what will happen. And then we've obviously got some questions, so we can look at how you handle certain things. But this is very much looking at what's going to happen this year, and what I think we really need to look out for individually and as part of society. So what we're going to cover is break things down into 4 areas. The first one, I'm just going to help you set the scene if you're not familiar with Chinese zodiac astrology. Then I'm going to talk about that. Then I'm going to look at understanding the energy of now, what's actually going on now. And then I'm going to give you 3 guiding principles for 2023, keeping it really, really simple. And then part 4, I've put this in for you, and we're going to be looking at the big picture and some rabbit traps. Okay, so let's just start by setting the scene. So we're going to look at the Chinese zodiac. So each year is related to one of 12 animals, and each animal has a certain set of characteristics, a behavior, a certain way of being. But the year is also related to one of the 5 elements, one of the 5 energies, and that also gives the year a certain set of characteristics, etc. So basically, each year occurs once every 60 years. So the last time we were in a water rabbit year was 1963. I want you to remember 1963 because we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, each year has a theme to it. It's kind of like, okay, what's the theme for this year? It has a flow, a way we move through, and it has an undercurrent, something that's going underneath the surface, a kind of vibrational energy to it. And also each block of 12 years also has a theme, a flow, an undercurrent, and a vibration to it. And currently, we're in a block of time dominated by metal energy. It started in 2020 and then 2021 with 2 metal energy years, and it will also end with 2 metal energy years, the end of 12 years. Now, metal energy is related to autumn, to fall, and that is about things ending, disconnecting. It's about isolation. The emotion is grief and loss. So we experienced isolation, grief, loss. Metal energy is also about working out what matters to you, what you value, what's important to you. So we experienced that within that 2020 and 2021, but there were other things that went on, which I'm going to talk about. Well, so that is an influence that's running through. Now, will this year be strong metal energy like 2020 and 2021? No, that energy is fading, but it's left a little bit of a shadow, a little bit of an imprint. Now, all of this time resonates, it vibrates with you, just like a lorry, if it drives past a window, it makes the window vibrate. The window and the lorry are not connected, but yet they resonate together. So all of those energies and all of those influences are resonating with you. They're resonating and influence and interacting with your stars, east and west, your numerology, and the essence of who you are. And some of that might have come from your parents, your culture, how you were brought up. But also the ancient Chinese believe that we have an essence, and it's really a promise that we make when we come to Earth, to do something, to be something, to explore something. So it's all resonating with that. Now you might think, oh my goodness, that's really confusing. So I've got to make sense of this year with my East and my West stars and my numerology and the essence and my parental influence and my culture. And I think that gets really complicated. So I think the easiest way to understand this year in relation to us as individuals is to look at it via your vitality test profile, which in a way is like an amalgam of all of your things, your East and your West stars, your numerology, your parental influence, your culture, and within your vitality test profile is an expression of the purpose, the thing you said you would do when you came to Earth, and a few challenges. So I don't tend to go and say, okay, how is this year for a Leo? Or how is this year for a water tiger? Or how is this year? I look at it by the vitality test profile because that's a really good way to experience it. So when we take the vitality test profile, although we might have the same energies, our life experience is different, and therefore it makes us different. And each vitality test profile has dominant energies. You can see it with where the arrows are pointing. And where you have the dominant energies, that tends to be our focus or our way of seeing the world. And where you have less energies, that tends to be where we have our blind spots or our lack of focus. And it's really good to be aware of the way we see the world or our blind spots or lack of focus, because that influences how we're going to react to the year. We don't see something that might have an impact. If you haven't taken the vitality test, it's completely free. Just go to 5institute.com and it's there for you. So let's just pull this first section together for you. So we have the energy of the year that will be influencing us. We've got the characteristics of the rabbit, which will be influencing our experience this year. We've got the metal energy block of time having some influence. We've got us represented via our vitality test profile. So let's look at understanding the energy of now. So that's the context. What's the energy of now? I'm just going to break this into 2 really simple groups. We've got the water energy and the rabbit. And if we look at the water energy first and start to explore what that might be about. And I've broken it down to what I think are 3 really important parts, like the essence of water energy, what this energy is about. Now, the first one is that water energy is related to winter. Every energy is related to a particular season. And in winter, remember the Chinese were ancient farmers. This is ancient China, not modern China. And it was observed what happens in winter within farming communities. Well, basically, if you didn't plant any crops or you didn't look after them or you or you didn't harvest them properly, then you starved in winter. Whereas if you planted your crops, you looked after them, then you had a good winter. So water energy is related to consequences, related to sustainability. Every energy gives us a big question. And the big question that water energy makes us constantly ask is, am I safe? Is it safe? What are the consequences? Is it sustainable? So that energy is there at the moment. And remember that consequences are both good and bad. If you look after yourself and you eat well and you exercise, then, hey, pretty good consequences. If you don't, then there are different consequences. So the water energy doesn't make it a good or a bad year. It just gives us consequences. And there will be questions around sustainability. The second thing about water energy is it's an energy that's to do with authority, trust, power, and flow. And interestingly, you'll often see news agencies will choose, particularly female news anchors, people that have a lot of water energy. And you can often see that by a very kind of square jaw, which is very characteristic of someone with a lot of water energy. Each energy gives us a different facial structure. And why do they choose people with a lot of water energy? Well, because we naturally trust that energy. It has a natural authority, perhaps because it's asking these big questions of, are we safe? Is it safe? Are we sustainable? They tend to have a big perspective, but we tend to naturally trust people with a lot of water energy, whether that's a good thing or not. So obviously the news outlets want us to trust their news readers to be telling the truth. So they choose people with that energy. Water energy also has a power to it. And it's an interesting power because it has a raw power of pure activity of water, but it also has the power to go around things, through things, under things. So it has this brute force, but also this flowing force. And it also gives us the power to reflect, and that then has influences on our future. So it's both powerful and flowing and reflective as an energy. And the third thing about water energy, it's related to purpose and leaving a mark. And water is the only energy of the 5 energies that actually leaves its mark on the earth. If you think about fire, it's very transitory. But water, through consistent, perpetual, constant action over a long period of time, it leaves its mark on the earth. If you think about the Grand Canyons or the glaciers as they carve through and create these valleys, it leaves its mark on the earth. So those are some significant things. So these are the 3 essences of water energy. Now, before we look at the rabbit, what I want to do is I want to go into some breakout rooms, because we have just been in a water energy year. We've been in a water tiger year. And the water energy within that year is a yang, external energy. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, in the last year, what was my experience being in a water energy year? What was my experience around consequences? Did I experience personally consequences, or did I see consequences playing out in the world? Were there issues around sustainability? Did that come to our consciousness? Sustainability out there in the world. Were there issues around authority, trust, power? Were people trying to take power, or were you trying to reclaim power? Did things flow, or did they not? And was there a sense that there must be more to life than this, a purpose, or did you sense you should have done something or could have done something? So I want you to think within the breakout rooms. I want you to think about what you experienced and saw in a water energy year of those things, and I'll make sure you have those there. Now, I have very simple, with the breakout rooms, we're going to set them up. I have very simple suggestions with the breakout rooms. And the first one is to look pleased when you see someone. When you arrive in the room, smile, but don't look too happy, because then you just look crazy. Okay, so it's just being warm and welcoming, but not too crazy. Okay, so this is what we want you to look at. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to pop you into breakout rooms. And Gina,
Welcome.
This meeting is being
so welcome back, everybody. welcome back. I hope that worked out in terms of the rooms. We have a little bit of problems moving people into the right rooms. But I would love to either to pop in the chat area, or if you'd like to just kind of raise your hand and just say what was discussed in the room, or what you noticed around the whole issue around sustainability. What did you experience? What did you see around sustainability? I'm really curious. Perhaps take a few.
Caroline has a hand up.
Oh, lovely. Please unmute, Caroline.
Caroline Harris, yeah.
Lots of changes, actually, for me and to Alison, who I was chatting with. Big change. Unexpected changes, actually.
And can you give an example of what one of them might be?
Well, I'm Yang Fire Monkey, my day master.
Right.
So, you know, can you imagine with the Yang Water Tiger, that really clashed me?
Yeah.
It was totally unexpected as well. We were given notice after many years of living in our home, and we were expected to move within a very short amount of time. And last year was it was really chaotic with everyone moving, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And and that water energy has that kind of change of circumstance that suddenly undermines things. Oh, I think that's really interesting. And any other examples of noticing that kind of water energy, trust, sustainability, consequences?
For a hand up, looking for a hand. Is there a hand? Lenka has a hand up.
Lenka.
Yeah.
Yep. Please unmute.
Yeah, thank you. Our group started to talk about water and the power of water and how it is so much integrated into our lives these days. So the increased awareness of the importance of water really on a global level. So for example, we drink more water than we were ever told to drink, or we've discovered the importance of water in that way. Both of the two people in our group have taken to swimming more often. We talked about phrases of letting go, like go with the flow, which always refers to water. And also the surrendering in order to trust the flow. And and really what that is a surrendering of a certain kind of power, or no, pardon me, control, a certain kind of control that we mistaken for power. Yeah,
beautiful.
Thank you.
And also within that power as well, isn't it? It's like, who has authority in your life to make you feel a certain way? That's again reclaiming our power. Fantastic. I love the whole water analogy and flow. It's brilliant. Shannon.
Oh, hi. Yeah, last year for me definitely was all about authority, trust, power, flow, reflection, purpose, leaving a mark. It was my year of the tiger. I turned 60 last year and had absolutely the best year of my life. I did have some challenges, but even those were brilliant, and I really stuck to my guns and stuck to my intuition and created personal sovereignty unlike never before. And I was so pleased I did, because then by the end of the year, I felt really proud of that. And all of the dip that happened in the beginning of the year was resolved by the end of the year. And so it was absolutely fantastic, and only getting better already this year.
Brilliant. And it was that year to try and explore and experiment with personal sovereignty. And it was okay to think, actually, I've not got it, and I'm going to have a different experience this year with it. So we'll just take one more, and it's the lovely Ali. Ali, lovely to see you.
Hi, Nick. Lovely to see you too. It's been a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. It was very odd. There were some echoes there. I also had terrible problems with housing, and it seemed I was going to have to move. And despite much anxiety, my something was telling me I wasn't going to move, and against all odds I stayed. And that gave me a very strong sense of trusting, and also wanting to pursue what I want on my terms, and being much sure about getting it. And I think when you were talking about that image of the water channeling through the earth, I felt that. I really felt, oh, I actually think my kind of water, my purpose thing's gone into that very strong, directive.
Power.
So definitely.
Because last year was interesting because we had the most powerful energy, water, with the most powerful animal, tiger, and they come together. So it was that, do you want to step into your power? And what would the consequence of that be? And how would it be? Different year this time. Fantastic. And thank you, Ali. Lovely to see you. So let us get back to the show on the road. And I've just seen that Susan had put in the chat area, we talked about the revelations in the political sphere, particularly in the UK, consequences following three years of 3 prime ministers. A little bit of an issue going on in the UK around trust. Do we have trust and truth, etc.? So yeah. Linda saying about innocence, naivety, and coming into sink or swim. Yeah, very, very water energy. Okay, let me share my slides and let's do some my screen. We'll do some more slides. And okay, so we kind of had a little look at the water tiger. Now let's hop into the rabbit. Okay, essence of rabbit. So again, we just got kind of 3 things with the rabbit. First of all, is the energy we're going to get from the rabbit is different from the tiger, which is this power. We're going to get a sensitivity and intuition and alertness and adaptiveness. This is the first we had in 2020. We had the metal rat, and that was a very adaptive year. So we had real trauma and difficulty, but we had a rat that allowed us to adapt quite quickly. But then we had the ox and the tiger, and they're just not adaptive. So thank goodness we've got this adaptive energy. And rabbit, no years are considered to be lucky or unlucky, but rabbits are considered to be lucky years. But that, I think, is because we are more sensitive, we're more intuitive, we're more alert, and we're more adaptive. And you look at all the research on luck, if you're sensitive, intuitive, alert, and adaptive, you tend to spot things and therefore potentially have more luck. And that just balances out a little bit of this water energy consequences. The second thing about rabbits is that they're very peaceful, patient, gentle, and they're community driven. Now, this is the first community driven year we've had in 4 or 5 years. The rest has all been very solitary and pushing and directing about this is the first time when we see a reuniting of community. And particularly, we had all that metal energy, which is about isolation, divisiveness, black and white thinking, I'm right, you're wrong. This is the first time we get that peaceful, patient, gentle, and kind of community-driven energy coming in with that water energy as well. And the third thing to say about rabbits is, as well as this kind of peaceful, still energy, they also have the ability to change direction. They're really fast when required. And again, this is in rooster years, things will suddenly change direction. But rabbit years, you really see a sudden change in direction. I want you to remember that. And then they're very fast when required. So they have that stillness, peacefulness, gentleness, and then speed when required. So it's a duality that's going on. So the essence of rabbit, this is the essence of rabbit, that sensitive, intuitive, peaceful, patient, gentle, change direction, then really, really fast when required. So let's just look at pulling together. We've got this influence of water energy with all the consequences, authority, trust, purpose, and then we've got mixed and blended with that, all those aspects of the rabbit. Now you might, and that's what this year is about. Now you might think to yourself, oh, great, Nick, that's really, really not clear. How on earth do I manage those different things? This is not helpful. Well, I'm going to be helpful because I'm going to give you these 3 principles or kind of guidelines for 2023. And they're actually really, really simple. So the first one is to go forth, have fun, and multiply. but do it sustainably. So this is not an encouragement to go out and just start breeding and having lots of children. It's about going forth and doing what you're meant to do, planting seeds, doing things differently. If you've got projects you've been waiting for ages to do, or you think, I've been really struggling with this, this is a really good time to go forth and do it. But the big thing here is the other one is have fun. We've not had a fun year in really quite a while. And this is a year to actually have fun, go forth, have fun and multiply. And whatever you do will multiply. I mean, that's what happens with rabbits, they multiply. But remember, we also have the kind of water energy. So it also has to be done sustainably because things multiply and consequences multiply either way around. So whatever happens, it's a multiplying year. But it's an exploration around being active, doing, having fun, multiplying, and then trying to do it sustainably at the same time. And that's the dance. That's the game that we're exploring and trying to do. So it's trying to get that balance of yin and yang, of activity and rest, and it's same for the planet, to enjoy the planet and do things, but do it in a way that's sustainable. So again, remember, this is like the beginning of the 1960s when they were exploring how can we do things and live life and have fun, enjoy and love and do things, but actually create sustainability so the planet survives and we survive. And this is a real exploration around that. The next thing that my guideline for 2023 is to be brave, stay above ground and stay connected. So to a certain extent, with that sensitivity that the rabbit brings, that intuitiveness, the alertness, if you really tap into that, and if you allow yourself to get really tired, and then it gets to be a struggle because what you're doing is unsustainable, it can create an anxiety or fear. And what rabbits do is when they're scared, they go boom, and they disappear underground. They just go. And this is really not a time for you to disappear underground, because this is a time, like at the beginning of the 1960s, where we're deciding how we want the world to be for the next 60 years. And you just happen to be born into this time in your kind of sentient power that you are, to be helping decide how we want the world to be. So just be aware that you do need to be brave, stay above ground, stay connected. And that is related to our ability to be sustainable, our reserves, and to get that balance right. And again, that's the dance with it. And we'll give you a couple of guidelines to kind of help you with that in a bit. And then the third thing is to reunite your actions and heart with your soul's calling. Now, as I said, the ancient Chinese believe that when we came to Earth, we made a promise to do something, to explore something, to be something. And this is a year where, with that sensitivity, that intuitiveness, that sense, that water energy, purpose-driven, leaving a mark on Earth, it's about reuniting your actions, you're doing, with your heart, what matters to you, in alignment with your soul's calling. And if you look at the spirit of water energy, every energy has a spiritual component to it, a kind of more esoteric part. And if we look at the two components within water energy, this duality of water energy, it has something called Ming Men, which is translated as purpose, but the characters tell us more. And what the character on this left-hand side, the upstroke means heaven and earth, and then there's a dash, and that means when you came from heaven to earth, you said something. Then this square block here on the left is like an official stamp, and then beside it is a banner to follow, and then these means doors. So it means when you came from heaven to earth, you said you would do something. There was an official stamp, so yep, this is a contract, and then you were given a banner to follow, and you walk through those doors. Now, and this is a water energy year to express and explore that with your intuitive and your sensitivity. Now, what's really important here is to recognize that there are lots of myths and ideas about purpose and what it's really about, and I'm here. And it doesn't have to be something that you create this massive movement or do something it could be your purpose in life is to explore what it's like to truly love yourself, or your purpose in life. I mean, I recognize my purpose. One of my big things I'm exploring in this life is to try and get that balance right between giving and sacrificing. And alongside that is I want everybody in the world to have someone that's there for them. And I used to get confused and thinking it had to be me. And then it moved from giving into sacrifice, and I bounced around that. That's what I'm here to explore and have fun and do different. And I just do different expressions of that. So your purpose does not have to be changing every aspect or changing the world or being a Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, whatever. It could be just learning to love and appreciate yourself, or get that right. The second component of the Chinese aspect of water energy is this zhi, willpower. And we think about willpower as drive and determination, but if you look at the character, it means something very, very different. This at the top means a shoot pushing through the ground. So it's something being pushed up into the earth to be seen. And the radical below is a sign for heart. So it's what is in your heart that you want to bring to the world, what matters to you from your heart. And that's what zhi is really about. So with that water rabbit, we get a chance to go forth in a different way. It's a year that is not about isolation and aloneness. It's about community. Remember, rabbits are communities. To go forth, have fun, multiply, and sustainability. And some of the issues and things around sustainability is asking for help, being together, doing things. It's also about being brave, staying above ground, and staying connected. If you think about rabbits, the way that they stay safe is everyone is together, they're out, and someone hears a noise and they all know it's a problem, they disappear. It's a collective experience. So again, this is a chance to stay connected with your community, with your tribe. And it's a time to kind of reunite, put back together your actions with your heart, with your soul's calling, to just explore. And we had 2 years, 2020 and 2021, when we were given experiences around what we like and what we don't like. And you can say, actually, I really like this and I really don't like this. Well, this is your chance to do more of the stuff that you really like. And it's to have more fun. So, and all of this is underpinned with what's in your heart, what matters to you, what thing. It's not about perfection, and it's about sustainability, playing with that balance, getting that right. And it's about our communities that we create and are part of and belong to. And that's ultimately what this year is in exploration, around. So I'm just going to take some questions now, and then we're going to wander into another breakout room. So do we have any questions or thoughts at this particular stage around what's going on?
Nobody's put anything in the chat yet.
That's fine. You don't have to. No, obviously all very, very clear. Should we wander into?
Simpson F has a question.
Oh, Simpson F.
Oh, hi. Sorry, it's Fiona.
Fiona, thank you, Fiona.
I know quite a lot. I study astrology, and
Perfect.
what's quite interesting this year is the move of Pluto into Aquarius. And Aquarius is all about the collective and society and groups and teams and all of that sort of stuff. So I think it's quite interesting that it chimes quite well with the move of that outer planet, which hasn't moved for about 248 years.
No.
I thought that's quite interesting.
Yeah. And if you listen to the Conscious Cafe thing I did last year, which is on YouTube, I look at how 3 large areas, geopolitics, consumerism, spirituality, are all trying to move into a different energy. And they're all 200, 300, 400 year cycles, all trying to move at this same time. And you're right, this is the first real expression of it. And it's interesting when you look at all modalities of understanding the vibrational sense in the world, Western astrology, Eastern astrology, numerology, they're all saying the same thing, that this is an utterly unique time to shift our thinking from an individual to a collective, and at the same time being individuals.
Yes.
So it's a fantastic one. Really, really interesting. Oh, thank you, Fiona. That's really great. Thank you. Love it. So shall we continue with these slides? Let me have a, that was a great input. Where are we? Here we go. Okay. I want to do a really, really quick breakout room now. We're just going to literally just do a couple of minutes in this breakout room. 4 minutes will do. And what I want to explore for you is, that there are many reasons why we have issues around sustainability. It could be not being conscious of it, not etc. But one of the big things that can influence a lot of us in terms of our sustainability to be individually sustainable is issues around boundaries, around do we have good boundaries, do we have poor boundaries, what's going on with boundaries. And this will be a year where there will be something going on around boundaries. So what I want you to do is just nip into the breakout rooms for just 3 minutes or 4 minutes, 3 minutes, let's do, and just come up with a brainstorm and collective ideas about how do you create better boundaries? What would you do to create better boundaries? It's a big question, but I think it's a really important one to explore. So welcome everybody back from your breakout rooms. So what I would like you to do is what I've done is I've popped my email in the chat area. And what I'd like you to do is to email me with your ideas and your thoughts around boundaries. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to correlate, put them all together, and then Conscious Cafe is going to email out the whole collection to you. That'd be helpful. So if one person emails, that's great. If more people email, then that's even more wonderful. And do put in the chat area. It's never long enough, absolutely, tomorrow. So do put in the chat area if you have any particular thoughts, and we can also share the chat with you.
What do you want people to email? What specifically?
Can you give the email again in the chat?
In the chat.
Yeah, of course I can.
Thank you.
Yeah, what do you want them to email to you? Clarify.
Yeah, I just want you to email me advice. If you were giving yourself advice around boundaries, what would you say to yourself? Or you were giving to a friend of yours who struggles with boundaries, what would you say? Well, I think the best thing to do is this. So it's a group exercise collecting ideas around boundaries. Now, I would like to say at this particular stage, we have got an essence of metal energy flowing through at the moment. And metal energy can have issues around perfection. So none of this is meant to be perfect. It's about playing and having a go, and it's about exploring and having a collective experience. Okay, so have a go, and we shall see how we get in. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to be looking at a few more slides. Okay, the one thing I would say around boundaries, it is very, very hard to have good boundaries when you are very, very tired. So again, we're having this exploration around, do we get too tired? Is our life unsustainable? If it is unsustainable, do we struggle with boundaries? And if we struggle with boundaries, does it get more unsustainable? And so it goes on. That's the game. That's what we're playing and exploring with it. Okay, so let us now look at just a top level view. So basically this year has a duality to it. You might have spotted it going on around taking action and being sustainable, being above ground and being below ground, resting and being active. So the whole year has an exploration around a duality to it that has a rabbit above ground and below ground, and you get in that balance right. Water has this activity between power and movement and utter stillness and reflection. And metal energy has this thing, this propensity to have black and white thinking, a duality to it. So one of the things that we're really here to explore collectively is the whole idea of managing and embracing and reuniting the duality, the things that have separated and divided us. This is a year to reunite, be brave, and make magic happen. If it is the reuniting of the duality that we're here to explore in this particular year. And I want to just talk about something that happened in 1963. So 1963, which kind of when the book was written, published in 1964, there was a book called The Private Life of Rabbits. And it's a fantastic book. I'd recommend. And it gave Richard Adams the idea for creating Watership Down that he started writing a couple of years later. However, there was a difference between the two books. In the Private Life of Rabbits, there was an absolute understanding of how do rabbits exist and what are rabbits like as societies. Well, they are kind of a matriarchal society. It's actually the female rabbits that keep things under control. There is the Warrens it's a female-driven society, and they have the power. So within these water rabbit years, there is an expression around feminine women as a collective, and what would that be like as a collective? Now, in 1963, but this is really important to get our heads around and understand this properly. So in 1963, a seminal piece of work was written by Betty Friedan, and it was the feminine mystique. And what she was exploring and what she said was, what happened to women in the 1950s compared to how we were before that? Because women were powerful and they were doing different things. And then in the 1950s, this narrative, this idea of women are homemakers, they're caring and nurturing and kind, and they're in the home doing the homemaking stuff, and that's what this idea of feminine energy is about. And she said, this is a society creation. And her book was a seminal piece of work that got women out and saying, actually, no, we are not like that. We have rights. And there was a whole stuff around repealing the abortion acts and legal and safe. And surprise, surprise, we're having a similar conversation around this is something has gone out of balance. And this particular time formed a whole different set of thinking that then went to right, blended with the civil rights movement, and we had the women liberation, etc. So it was a phenomenal time when one saw the exploration of what it is like to be a woman and what it is the expression of to be a woman out into the world. And that's a very water rat, two pieces of work. We're really exploring the power of, however, it went confused in a way. And Betty, with her book, was really trying to say it shouldn't go this way. And I talk about it in some of my writing webinars I run on this deception around masculine and feminine energy. It basically is a construct that was created to mainly suppress women, but it has become a narrative. So we're again going to be exploring that. So be aware that there is a chance to reinvent our individual and collective power within a situation where we finally get rid of a duality of men are like this, women are like this, the stereotype, the boxes are going on. So we're going to be exploring that if you choose to, and you look at it. But there are some traps, and I want to just talk about what to watch out for these traps. And the first one is looking at, we have this metal energy influence in this year, and it is a very slight bit of influence, but it is definitely there. Metal energy is connected to, we've got this kind of block of time. Metal energy is connected to autumn and fall, and then basically things disconnect, they end. And so what metal energy does, it gives us a sense of searching for what's missing or incomplete. It gives us a sense of isolation. It also gives us a sense of black and white thinking. So there will be a slight tendency to do that. But within this search for what's missing or is incomplete, isn't right, the danger can be that we move into a view of perfection. And the issue around perfection is perfection by its very nature is exhausting and it's unsustainable. So if you have issues around perfection, you will be challenged to deal with those. And it is not a time where we should let that perfection dominate our thinking, because it's a time of exploration of things being done in new ways. And as things form, they will fundamentally be imperfect as they form. So the danger, a trap, will be black and white thinking, perfection, and people expecting it to be done a certain way. That's what we need to watch out for. The other little bit of a trap, and I don't think this is a trap, I think this is just a reality of some of our experiences. And what I talked about in this particular video, which I recorded about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and it's saying how I felt deeply kind of broken by some of the experiences that I'd had, by the people that had died, the loss, the isolation. But it was a recognition that I wasn't broken. I was actually just being rearranged in some way in order to be able to do this next bit that we're all being asked to do. So there is an awareness that the last few years broke some of us or rearranged some of us, and that has left a sensitivity, something that fundamentally needs to be healed, resolved, dealt with. So we have this energy to go out, go forth, multiply, and do all this stuff. But at the same time, we have this duality that, do I feel able to do that? Do I feel traumatized? Do I feel, it's a healing that still needs to be done. So how would we balance and deal with that? So be aware that that is going on, and there is a trauma to be resolved and to be dealt with. Just the same as in the 1960s, there was a beginning of the 1960s, there was a trauma from the Second World War and from the First World War that was left, that had to be dealt with, and that requires a sensitivity. So be aware that that is something. If that happens to be something you are struggling with, we're doing at the Five Institute something called the Big Conversation. It's a gentle exploration of how the pandemic lockdown, how it left us, and what's to be resolved and what's to be recreated. And the idea is not to relive it, but to reclaim who we were, to reinvent who we were, to reimagine who we were, to rejoice in what we achieved, whatever it is. There's all these words that we will do. I was told by many people, do not do this, Nick, saying people just don't want to talk about it. I don't think that's right. I think that many of us do need to talk about it. So we have the Big Conversation. Let's go to Five Institute. It's completely free, and they'll be starting towards the end of February. We've got a community that's putting together a lovely, gentle package to help people within big conversations. And I would also encourage you within your local conscious cafes, if you want to have big conversations about what happened, and very happy to share the materials to help the process. We've got people working with it to help around listening, etc. So be aware that that is something that some of us might need to deal with and do, and that's fine. It doesn't mean, and it just might be in this sensitive year, it comes up a little bit more. So be aware that help is there for you. The other thing because ultimately we need to resolve that stuff, because this time is some level as being heroic. We need to be heroic in a sustainable, balanced way. And we need to be heroic because we need to say, actually, this is how I would like the world to be. Because if we do not say how we want the world to be, then someone else says, this is what's going to exist for you. So this is a chance to voice, to say, which is why you need to be brave. Stay connected, stay above ground, and use your communities to lean in. You've had an experience of saying what you like, of seeing what you like and what you don't like. We've had all the water energy consequences. So this is about you being heroic. But I do want to say, as I'm running something in September called Energetic Superpowers and Heroic Actions. And the idea of being heroic is not around the hero's journey, because I think that is just wrong as an idea, because that involves sacrifice and hardship and pain, and that is what heroic is about. And being heroic could just be loving yourself. That being heroic could just be having the ability to listen. It doesn't have to involve around a terrible journey or through the dark nights. They were just stories we told each other. Because if around the campfire, if the story was Eric went off on a journey and it all worked out well, that would be a really boring story around the campfire. So every hero's journey was Eric went on a journey and then this happened and then this happened and whatever. And if instead it was Erica went on a journey and it all worked out well, it would be a really boring story. So remember, our ideas of heroic actions are tied in with stories to titillate, excite and things, but that is not what we're fundamentally looking at. So there is stuff we need to do around being heroic. And that's what we're kind of looking at with that. The final trap I think we need to finally watch out for is this one. Rabbits, as we know, change direction and they're super fast when required. So what we are going to see this year, and it's not a trap, it's just something to be aware of, and those are plot twists. Now, plot twists in a film or a book or a TV program or something, what are plot twists designed to do? They're designed to go, oh, didn't see that coming. It's designed to wake you up. It's some of the designed to amuse you, to get your attention, to make you think differently. Some of the plot twists are designed to just say, okay, this is different. We need to shift it. So we will see, as a result of this rabbit, water energy purpose, we will see plot twists going on. So again, it's teaching us to be adaptable and to flow and to go through things, but just don't be surprised if you see plot twists, because that's the nature, but they're there for us rather than they're being done for us rather than to us. But there will be some. 1963, right towards the end of the year, where people were exploring their power and their individuality, there was a plot twist. JFK was assassinated. And what was that plot twist about? Well, what the power of Kennedy, who had lots of water energy, was we all trusted him. He made us feel safe, had a big vision. And then at some level, responsibility was being relinquished to someone else. And so that was suddenly removed, and suddenly people felt lost and thought, actually, I have to take power myself. It was the same way as Malcolm Gladwell talked about. When Barack Obama was in office, lots of people relinquished responsibility around social justice, etc., because he was so good at those conversations. So there might be plot twists, but they're there to help you. And if you're sustainable and you rest, you will deal with them fine. But just be amused when you see them. They will appear. And I want to finally end up with a thank you. A thank you for choosing to be born into this time, because, you know, this is a very, very special time to be born into. It's time to be enjoyed, to cherish, but also to say, actually, this is how I want the world to be, or this is how I will express how I want the world to be in my life. And that might be being kind to yourself or loving it, whatever it is. Just we've been shown how we want the world to be. And obviously you have your communities, and it's a community time where we are together as individuals, as part of a collective, deciding how we want the world to be. And we've had experiences of who has power, who doesn't have power. And this is a tremendous time for you to be in your power. So thank you very, very much for that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if we have any questions, any thoughts. Did you find that helpful?
The expanding on the free carrots trap.
The free carrots trap.
When you talked about the trap, and then there was the free carrots, to expand on that.
Don't trust everything you see.
Yeah, that was just a slide. I like it. It amused me. That's all it was. Well, there is, you know, there is a bit of a message around the kind of free carrots, and that's to do with water energy. And there's nothing wrong with this, but there can be a propensity in water energy years to say, I want to find the path of least resistance. I want to find the easiest flow. And this looks really easy and free and stuff, therefore I'll go that direction. And sometimes we need to be more of a water energy that says, no, I have some power and I'm going to push through this. So there can be a little bit around water energy of constantly looking for the easiest way to do something. And sometimes the easiest way to do something doesn't always serve society, whatever. So there is some stuff around flow, but it's a balance. One of the things we talk about in energetic superpower is looking at what energetic state do we choose to be in, into flow or into control and stuff like that. So yeah.
So instead of being the stream that goes across the pebbles, it may be to gather your energy and become that big waterfall.
Yeah, exactly. Or to just say, actually, what we need to do now as a collective, we just need to reflect a bit, and we just need to pause and reflect and just think a little bit more about this. Whereas the easier thing is just to get angry or get annoyed. Ali, I just seen your message about the slides with the traps. So I'm just putting in the chat area. All the slides are available for you on that link. So tomorrow we say, might the government be offering free carrots? Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that you can see, and we saw in many countries, governments basically just started printing during lockdown. They basically started printing money, and more in America and lots of countries, more money was printed in those 2 years than been printed in the last 50, 60 years. And why did they print money? Is they just wanted to give people money to keep everything a certain way. It was free carrots. And in this country, there's lots of carrot issues of giving people carrots, because it stops us fundamentally questioning the behavior of those in power. It just stops us questioning it, because we're going, it's the same as in ancient Rome. They would arrange games and things to amuse people, to stop them thinking about who has power, who doesn't have power, and how we want society to be. There's lots of carrots going on. And the whole question around social media is that sustainable? Is that taking our power? Is it taking our time? Is it taking our energy? And what's that designed to do for us as individuals? So Marisa was asking, why did I mention metal energy when it's a water this year? Because we are in a block of 12 years, of which 4 of those years are metal energy. So a third of those years are metal energy. And so there's constant influence around metal energy. Metal energy is, what do we value? What's important to us? How do we want things to be, etc., etc.
Are they bookending? Is it the metal energies that are
they're bookending? Yeah, we start with 2 metal energy years, and it's almost like an exam question. Okay, here's the exam. Let's explore what it's like to be isolated, alone. Let's work out what it is we want and what it is we don't want. Let's look at what you're prepared to let go of and what you think you can't let go of. Let's do that stuff. And then it ends with 2 years where we're saying, hey, look, you did really well. Look what you got. So the last block of time was dominated by earth energy, and earth energy is about communities and social and coming together. So we saw social media developing in those block of 12 years. We saw a real exploration of, were we a community? We had globalization, but were we a true community, or were we tribal? And we had an exploration around the difference between being a community and going tribal. And we saw a battle going on between those. So yeah. So Sandra, are we moving to a different energy next year? Yes, we are, Sandra. We are moving into a wood dragon year. And dragons are the only one of the creatures that's mythical. Everything else is very earthly. You've got rabbits and tigers and pigs and dogs. And then dragons are different. They are mythical, and they are said to bring messages from heaven down to earth. And what they bring down to earth is related to what it is, the element they're associated with. So last time we were in a dragon year was a water dragon year, which was 2012. And that was lots of stuff around what are we here to do? What's the world about? End of Mayan calendar. It was whereas this is a wood dragon year, and wood energy is about innovation, justice, things being done differently. It's about revolution. So 1964, a wood dragon year, we had the Civil Rights Act. I'm saying actually there is wood energy is an injustice. There is an injustice going on here. And we're going to do a heavenly and divine challenge of that. So we've got that year coming, which is this year is kind of us setting up for what might come at that time. And we will see leaders coming up and other people stepping down within that process.
Interesting.
And the New Zealand Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, she is very, very tuned and very, very sensitive. And she started this year off with a plot twist. She said, I'm resigning, I'm stepping down in order to look after myself and have my health, to get more balance in my life. That was a plot twist. Probably, I regard one of the world's best leaders stood down as a plot twist to have a more sustainable, balanced life, because that's the nature of what she's tuned into. Any other kind of questions?
Somebody's asked a question about their astrological individual signs in the water, like a dragon in a rabbit year.
I think what you're better off doing, I won't go into, I think you're better off looking at your vitality test profile and looking at that energy in relation to, so what would your vitality test profile say if you've got dominant fire energy? What would that look like in this year? Would you naturally be able to have more fun, or have you forgotten to have fun? So I would look at it, the energy of you in relation to the energy of the year. It's a much easier thing, because particularly these very big things are like I'm a water dragon. Well, does that mean everyone that was born in that year has the same energy and the same input? Well, no, because they had different parents, different cultures, different numerology, different signs. They're too big. Leos are too big to think of as a group to interact with the subtlety of the year. So the vitality test profile is a much better way to do it, I think.
Okay, so one final energy question. We talked about matriarchy and what might that look like in this year. He gave us an insight of 60 years ago.
Okay.
This year.
Good question, Ali. Should I tell you? It will look like we decided we want it to look like. These years are not determined. They're determined by what we decide we want to be. So it could be that the matriarchy taps into some wood energy, gets some injustice going, or metal energy, and says whatever, and it goes in a different direction. All we're being given this year is an energy to play with that opens it up. But how we respond to it is up to us as a society. So we kind of get to choose how we kind of how we want things to be. So Betty Friedan in her book, when she was talking about women and what it was like, she's got some really quite famous quotes, and I'm paraphrasing one of them. She says something equivalent of, men are just as much victims of this system as we are as women. So she had a view that this is not working out for anybody. So what do we decide we want to do? Do we decide we want to do it? Now, there are definitely people, and particularly men, who are really strongly pushing back against the idea that they're not allowed to be masculine men, and we're not allowed, no one can tell me what to do and how I'm meant to be, and all this stuff. And that was the black and white thinking and the narrowness. So how it will be this year will be how we decided we want it to be. But what I can say, it will be a much, much easier conversation than we've had in the last 3 years. The last 3 years has been metal energy, black and white thinking there. Then we had that tiger of I'm in power, I'm going to rip your head off, I'm in that. This is where, and there was nothing about community. Last time we had a community stuff was like 5-6 years ago. So we have a chance to have a different conversation. We've got the rabbit, which is sensitive, intuitive, it's gentle, it's collaborative, it's all those different energies. So it's much, much easier to have those conversations. But we have to watch our boundaries, and we're not triggered by our past water energy. So yeah, we get to decide, and we have to stay above ground and voice what we would like it to be, just as they did in the 1960s, and they chose a certain way to be, and it was better. But you will see people really struggling with it. Yeah, really struggling.
Nick, picking up on what you were talking about, questioning power and the power of community. I don't know whether you've seen the movie The Bank of Dave. The Bank of Dave. I don't know that anybody's seen it. This is a strong recommendation to watch it on the ads are going up on Netflix, because it's Dave who started a bank, and it's a dramatization of it. Back in 2000 and maybe 12 or 2009, but it was after the banking crash and our loss of trust in the banking system. And he thought, well, I'll start my own bank. But what he did in his community was phenomenal. It's a brilliant film at all levels, but it is about the power of community. And at the end, you see Dave in Burnley with his bank. It's still running. So everything you've talked about is an example of people taking back power and doing something, and small actions. So to anybody who's not seen it, I'm going to highly recommend it as a beautiful example of some of the things, the issues you're talking about. We're coming up to 29. Yeah, carry on. Yeah.
And what we noticed as an experience in 2020 when that pandemic hit, it was local communities set up WhatsApp groups. They were shopping for each other. Local communities pulled together and did something amazing. And the governments were, to start with, were really slow. They had nothing in place. We have a 5 Institute, we have a community interest group up in Cumbria, and Janet, who's they were shopping for people. They were doing prescriptions. They were out all the time. The government hadn't even got their act together, and we were already covering everything. And that was, hey, this is how it can play out if you really want to. That was an example of what we got. And plant swaps, donations, food, technology, food, etc. Yeah, it's all there. It's all there.
We've got incredible edible in Skipton now. You know, vegetables that anybody can pick. So it's exciting, and you know, as you say, this gap, and now coming back to the strength in community is what we need, and this is what we're primed to do. Well, here we are at the end of the half hour, 8:30, and Nick, fantastic, because I know your work and I know how you brought the conversation around to the issues that we at Conscious Cafe are interested in, the community, not just ourselves, but community development. Yes, of course, how will that play out for us? So thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant.